Hello everyone, this is ElijahBman weather. Today we're going to be going over the windstorm potential and the long-range forecast. So before we get into this, I just want to tell you I am at a place with pretty bad Wi-Fi. So if there's any connection issues, bear with me today. But yeah, you can see this atmospheric river still trending into northern California and this trough off the coast of the Pacific Northwest. And it's going to be bringing us some pretty active weather today. If we look at the pressure map, this is a 979 millibar low that is currently offshore of Washington and Oregon State, and it will move up to the coast of Vancouver Island today. And we are probably going to be seeing some gusty winds because of this. It won't be super windy or anything. We are going to be spared the worst of the impacts as the system is going to be offshore. Moving along, you can kind of see this Arctic high start to develop, and then this ridge move in from the Pacific. So I expect things to cool down for a few days, and then we're gonna see if this ridge will warm us up with chillier nights ahead. We'll look at this in a few moments. Let's take a look at the European model winds. So if we kind of scroll out, you can see this is not really a remarkable system when it comes to winds at all. We might get gusts of 50 to 60 near Tawasin or Richmond or Vancouver. You might get 80 plus along Washington coast and Vancouver Island. Now that's a bit more gusty, but they see that pretty typically during a storm. You can see it will be gusty for a couple of days, but any strong winds are now looking more unlikely. We look at the precipitation. You can really see some inactivity here, some rain coming, some lower snow levels, but not sea level at all. Cypress Ski, Seymour, all the ski hills will get some. Mount Washington, we will be looking at some wet snow or some snow coming out there, as the temperatures won't be too warm at all, but sea level snow is not going to happen. We got some rain again Monday. Then you can really see next week we get some showery weather maybe, but things will dry out according to this run. You can see some sort of action coming in. It looks pretty interesting. Anything past a week out in the winter can change, really anything. But we're just going to be taking a look at that today. If we take a look at the HRRR high-res model, you can see it really did back off on the winds. Yesterday it was showing a worst-case scenario where we could be seeing out widespread 100 kilometers an hour all along the Puget Sound, eastern Vancouver Island, the Georgia Strait, Juan de Fuca. But thankfully that has trended off because we don't need a big windstorm right now after what we got a few nights ago. You can see the 40 to 60 kilometer gusts possible along Metro Vancouver. You got 70, 80 near Puget Sound, 80, maybe even up to 90 East Vancouver Island, as there will be some southeasterly winds gusting out of the strait. And then also see these hundreds showing up off the Washington coast there. Yeah, you can really see this is Whidbey Island. Winds, you can see 40 miles an hour really showing up. And if we take a look at Abbotsford, let's say Abbotsford Airport, you can see way less, some 70 kilometers an hour showing up, so 50s and 60s, but nothing too major, no major damage or anything to any trees. Maybe some weaker trees could fall. Let's take a look at the upper air height anomalies. If we kind of scroll out, you can see this trough here. It's going to weaken off the coast, and we can see this positive P&A start to develop over the Pacific Northwest. You got that ridging over here, and we got that negative EPO also developing, which will kind of force this ridge to build over. And then you can see people living out in the East Coast or the central US, watch out because you have some potential for some fun weather coming up. You can really see the signal that positive P&A really developing, that colder air for the East Coast of US and Canada. Now, let's not forget one thing. Once we get 300 hours out, the forecast accuracy gets way lower. Even on the ensembles, they will get lower. But we can still look at the signal here. It'll be warm and dry. We'll see how long that lasts. It probably won't last more than a week or two, because in winter patterns like to change. if we take a look at the if we take a look at the temperature anomalies, you can see there will be some chillier air out in the Pacific. I mean, central BC, as there was some cold air coming down through this area. There's a cold pool right now sitting over us, but it just doesn't look like we're going to get very much of it to head south. It's going to go east. You can see this polar lobe will take down some cold air for central US, east of the Rockies. And you can see, really, east of the Rockies, it acts like a big wall, and it blocks most of the cold air coming through. And yeah, it's quite a signal here. This is looking almost 10 days out now, but you can really see that signal that the central and eastern United States are going to see some warmer air. You can see some ridging up here, and some ridging would be here. It would direct the cold air through this little gap here, cross-polar flow. You can see, yeah, it's a very interesting signal here. If you kind of scroll out, it just doesn't stop. It just looks like a warm out west start to December and a cool out east ending. Start as well. But this could always change, so don't take it for real yet. Let's take a look at the Arctic Oscillation. So the Arctic Oscillation, or the AO, has something to do with the jet stream, the polar jet, and with the polar vortex. When it goes negative, the chances of any Arctic air intrusions increase across the North America continent. So if you see here on the 29th, it starts to go negative, and that's why we're seeing some Arctic air out east and east of the Rockies. And you can see it is negative for about a week. You can see the green line there is the ensemble mean. 50 different ensemble members agreeing overall that we will have a negative AO, or a negative Arctic oscillation, until maybe about early December, according to the ensemble. And then you can see the control, and it just goes way up there. The cold air taps would shut off, likely, if that happened. Now let's take a look at the Pacific North American Oscillation, so the PNA. So this really is looking at the ridging over the Pacific. This is the East Pacific, should I say. So when the PNA is positive, we're looking at usually drier and warmer conditions with chillier nights in the winter. And you can really see, once we get into the 27th, 28th, we're getting into some positive PNA territory. So watch out, because it might be getting pretty boring here in terms of cold air or snow or big wind storms or anything, or rain storms, because we got a overall ridging pattern developing or favored. But this can always change. I would say we can't really lock in anything just yet for early December, but right now it looks like that might be what develops. But let's take a look at the West Pacific Oscillation. So this is pretty much Bering Sea, the Bering Sea pressure gradients thing, So if we see right now, it's very negative. So that means that there is more of a trough over the West Pacific or the Bering Sea areas. Usually during a negative Western Pacific Oscillation, it usually encourages positive PNA over the area. What does this mean? This means a less active time period in terms of weather or snow or cold or Arctic air chances over the Pacific Northwest. We do see it start to go closer towards a neutral by early December, and maybe eventually by second half of December we can start to think about the Arctic air. But right now it doesn't look likely until then. So early December looks like a cold start for the east and a warmer start and a drier start for the west. But like I said, anything past 7 to 10 days cannot be taken too seriously right now. So we'll keep a look on it. I'll keep looking at it, and I'll keep you updated. If we take a look at the GFS ensemble, we're going to look at the Arctic Oscillation. This one is pretty similar to your ensemble. You can see it goes negative. The east will get some cold air intrusions, some snow events possible along the east coast. And then you can start to see the ensemble start to go towards neutral early December. So maybe that that will trend towards a negative AO again by late December. Maybe we can restart. We could try again and get some colder in the Pacific Northwest. But at this moment, it is looking like a warmer, drier start. Let's take a look at the Pacific North American oscillation. You can see it does go positive, but it just isn't as bad as the Euro Ensemble's idea here. You can see it starts going more towards a neutral by early December, and the control run kind of going negative. But once again, too far out to know. The WPO stays negative on this run, so we'll see. It can change past a week out. But yeah, so we got this satellite imagery here. We got this atmospheric river going through California. You can see it down there. This storm system funneling some light rain over the Metro Vancouver area, Puget Sound, Western Vancouver Island, and we got some more potential for showery weather coming up. And yeah, looks pretty dry in the extended, but how long will it last? We don't know. Things could change past a week out in the winter. I'll be keeping an eye on the Arctic air opportunities. And yeah, stay safe. Thanks for watching. Bye.